Good morning, everyone. Today's talk is on osteoporosis. Myself, Dr. Gaurang Chanchapura. I'm Assistant Professor in Department of Orthopedics, Government Medical College, Surat. So, points to be covered are the introduction of the osteoporosis, epidemiology, pathophysiology, associated conditions, prognosis, classification of it, laboratory investigations, imaging, differential diagnosis, treatment, and the complications of osteoporosis. Osteoporosis is age-related decrease in the bone mass secondary to the uncoupling of the osteoclast and osteoblast activity. There will be a disrupted microarchitecture of the bone which leads to osteoporosis. There are 200 million people worldwide have osteoporosis. In that, 1.5 million osteoporotic fractures occurs every year. In this 1.5 million osteoporotic fractures, 700,000 are the vertebral fractures, 300,000 are the hip fractures, and the 200,000 are the wrist fractures. If you see, the male to female ratio is 1:4, and men have a higher prevalence of secondary osteoporosis, including hypogonadism, glucocorticoid excess, and alcoholism. Females having more prevalence due to their postmenopausal. If we see the age group, then the osteoporosis is commonly seen in postmenopausal osteoporosis, highest in women aged 50 to 70 years. Senile osteoporosis is seen after the 70 years, and secondary osteoporosis begins at any age. If we see the fractures due to this osteoporosis, then the wrist fractures occurs most commonly in the age group of 50 to 60 years, vertebral fractures 60 to 70 years, and the hip fractures since in 70 to 80 years. So, most common and the early age will see wrist fractures, later on vertebral fractures, and in very elderly will see hip fractures. So, common locations are vertebral fractures, hip fractures, and wrist fractures. These are some risk factors. First is the lifestyle, second is the medication, third is genetic polymorphisms, and some diseases. If we see in the lifestyle, there is sedentary lifestyle. If patient is bedridden, patient is not doing any physical activity, then there will be a osteopenia and osteoclast activity will increase, and there will want to be a very good quality of bone. In smokers and in low body weight, low protein intake, heavy drinkers, patients having positive family history of some diseases, premature menopause will reduce estrogen activity, breastfeeders with low vitamin D in diets. If we see medication, then phenytoin, which reduces vitamin D metabolism, and due to that there will be lack of calcium absorption. Some cytotoxic drugs like methotrexate, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, antiretroviral therapy, cyclosporine, furosemide, high-dose methotrexate, omeprazole, glucocorticoid, unfractioned heparin and low molecular weight heparin, vitamin A, and thiazolidinone ions. If we see genetic polymorphism, then there will be a calcitonin receptor, calcitonin receptor polymorphism, estrogen receptor 1, type 1 collagen, alpha 1 chain, which leads to osteogenesis imperfecta in adults. Then there will be vitamin D receptor polymorphism, and will be LDL receptor related protein polymorphism. Some diseases are the malabsorption syndrome, which reduces calcium and vitamin D absorption, liver diseases, hypothyroidism, type 1 diabetes mellitus, cancer, chronic renal failure, chronic obstructive pulmonary diseases, rheumatoid arthritis, and the sarcoidosis. So these are some drugs, some diseases, and some polymorphism which leads to somewhere increase in activity of osteoclast and decrease activity of osteoblast, and there will be a microarchitecture failure and will leads to osteoporosis, that's a brittle bone. Osteoporosis is a quantitative disorder of bone mineralization. It's not a qualitative. If we see factors in young adults, there will be failure to build the peak bone mass. But in elder group, osteoporosis occurs due to bone loss in the later life. See, if calcium uptake is more, then there will be a good quality of bone. If it is less, then there is a osteoporosis. So it's a quantitative. How much absorption of the calcium vitamin D occurs in the body will have directly impact on the bone quality. If you see associated conditions with the osteoporosis, then there will be a fragility fractures If bone loss is more, then the fractures will be more. It's directly proportional to each other. We'll see the kyphotic deformity which occurs due to the vertebral body fractures. We see pelvic ring insufficiency fracture, which treated mostly due to in bed rest and analgesia. Total hip replacement with constrained components are a risk factor for fragility fractures. The patients with total hip replacement are augmented with the constrained components, there will be a more or exaggerated motion will lead to fracture of the bone due to osteoporosis. Prognosis is depend on the vertebral fractures, the hip fractures and the FRAX score, that's a fracture risk assessment tool. Prior fragility fracture is the strongest predictor of the future fracture from the low energy trauma. If patient has occurred or presented with one osteoporotic fracture, there is a chances that it will reoccur in any location of the body. Prognosis, if you see the dependence on the vertebral fractures, then it is associated with a 15% increase in 5-year mortality. It is associated with increased morbidity and patient will have persistence of back pain, loss of height, poor balance while walking, respiratory compromise, which leads to restrictive lung disease and pneumonia. If patient is having a history of one vertebral fracture, there will be a 5-fold increased risk of the second vertebral fracture and a 5-fold increased risk of hip fracture. If history of 2 vertebral fracture, then it's the strongest indicator for the further compression fracture in the postmenopausal woman. If you see hip fracture, that is associated with a 20% increase in mortality. In vertebra, it's a 15% increase in 5-year mortality, but in hip fracture, it's a 20% increase in mortality. So mortality rate is more in men than the women. If you remember the osteoporosis incidence, then man is to women ratio was 1:4. But in hip fracture, the mortality is more in men than the women. Associated with increased morbidity, there will be reduced quality of life. 1/3 patient will return to their previous level of function. So reduced quality of life, how it will be occur? If patient is having a hip fracture and is bedridden or treated with bed rest and analgesic, patient will lie in a bed and will not do any mobilization, which will lead to reduce their quality of life. If patient is having a history of one hip fracture, then there will be a 10-fold increased risk of the second hip fracture. CC classification is routinely divided in 2 types, type 1 and type 2. Type 1 is due to postmenopausal age, is seen in women in 50 to 70 years of age group, and type 2 is a senile osteoporosis, which is seen in more than 70 years of age group. If you see bone affected in type 1 is postmenopausal, is exclusive trabecular, and in type 2 it's more trabecular than the cortical. Bone fractured, if you see postmenopausal, that's a distal radius and the vertebral fracture, but in type 2 it's the pelvis and the hip fracture. So if you see postmenopausal is seen in a female, and that's why patient will present with distal radius and the vertebral fractures. So women will present with distal radius and the vertebral fracture, but men will present with the hip and pelvis fracture. See effect on the calcium in type 1 osteoporosis, then there will be negative effect. If we see the calcium level in the blood, then it will be a normal, but in type 2 there will be poor in calcium absorption. If seen effect on the vitamin D, then there will be a reduced circulating level of the total 125 dihydroxyvitamin D. So 2 things, if you do lab testing in the calcium, in type 1 there will be no effect, but it will affect the vitamin D level, but in type 2 there won't be any difference. Sorry, in type 2 there will be low calcium level. So lab initiation which should be done is 25 hydroxyvitamin D level, and will show us the low level of the vitamin D. If we see the imaging, then there is radiograph to be taken, which indications are the suspicions of fracture, there will be loss of height, any pain in thoracic or the lumbar region, we should directly go for the radiographs. Which views are recommended? And there is the AP and lateral view. Lateral view is recommended for the spine, but for the AP view is recommended for the pelvis and the hip. The findings, if we note, then there will be a thinned out cortex, loss of trabecular bone, kyphosis, development of kyphosis, and codfish vertebra. See here. So biconcave appearance of the vertebral body. This give a typical codfish like appearance. So it's called a codfish vertebra sign. It's commonly seen in osteoporosis. Please do remember this. Second imaging study is the DEXA-CAN, that's dual energy X-ray absorptiometry, is usually performed in the lumbar spine, and it measures bone marrow density from the second lumbar to fourth lumbar vertebra and it compiles the score. If you see here that it's measure bone marrow density from the femoral neck, trochanter and the intertrochanteric region and compiles the score. If we see the sensitivity or specificity of the DEXA-CAN, then it's the most accurate with the least radiation exposure. So it's a gold standard we can see than the radiograph. Here are some points and few definitions of the DEXA-CAN which we use. First is the bone marrow density, that's absolute. Patient-specific score determined from the certain anatomic areas. T-score is the BMW bone marrow density relative to the normal young matched controls. So T-score and the Z-score is the relative to this similar aged patient. So T-score is the normal compared with the normal individuals, but the Z-score is compared with the same age group. What's osteopenia? If lumbar 2 to lumbar 4 to lumbar density of the 1 to 2.5 standard deviation, then it's osteopenia. If you see in the graph, if this yellow color is masked with osteopenia, this is minus 1 to minus 2.5 standard deviation. T-score is labeled as the osteopenia, but the T-score is less than the minus 2.5 standard deviation, then it's termed as osteoporosis. Okay, so after this much things, if we come to conclusion that there's a patient, there's something wrong in the patient and patient is suffering some bone diseases or some weakness or the brittlity of the bone, then the point comes, what is the diagnosis of it? Whether it's osteoporosis or it's osteomalacia. There's a clear-cut defined marginal border between the two diagnoses. If it's osteoporosis, then there is a reduced bone mass, but the mineralization will be normal. But in osteomalacia, then there will be bone mass is variable amount and the reduced mineralization of that. If you see the age group, then osteoporosis is seen in postmenopausal or elderly. It's divided in two types, but in osteomalacia, it can be seen in any age group. Etiology part, then is endocrine abnormality, age dependent, it could be idiopathic, inactivity of the patient, alcohol or the calcium deficiency. But in osteomalacia, it will occur due to vitamin D deficiency or the abnormal vitamin D pathway. Hypophosphatemia, phosphatasia and renal tubular acidosis. If we see the symptoms and signs, osteoporosis patient will present with the pain and the tenderness at the fracture site, but the osteomalacia patient will have generalized tenderness or generalized pain in the body. See X-ray, patient will have axial fracture predominantly in osteoporosis, but in osteoma there will be appendicular fracture predominant, that's symmetrical and includes pseudofractures also. If we see calcium level, osteoporosis there will be normal, but in osteomalacia there will be low or normal calcium level. If we see serum phosphatase level, then it will be again normal, but it will be low in osteomalacia. If we see alkaline phosphatase level in osteoporosis, it will be again normal, but in osteomalacia it will be elevated. Urinary calcium, there will be high or the normal urinary calcium, but in osteomalacia there will be normal or low level. If you see the bone biopsy, then there will be tetracyclic labeling will be the normal, but in osteomalacia, tetracyclic labeling is abnormal. Next comes the treatment part. Yes, we have diagnosed that this patient is having osteoporosis. Now what? What to do? There comes the treatment. What are the goals of the treatment? First is to control the pain from the disease itself. Second is the slow down or the stopping of the bone loss, which is occurring right now or presently in the bones of the patient. Third one is to prevent the bone fractures with medicines that which strengthens the bones. We have seen that patient will suffer with the vertebral fracture, with the pelvis fracture, with the hip fracture, with the wrist fracture, and our aim should be to prevent it. Fourth one is to minimize the risk of the fall that might cause the fracture. Yes, in old age, patients are usually dependent to some person or some walking aids. But if they are walking and they are suffering from the osteoporosis, as soon as they will fall, the traumatic trivial trauma, it will lead to fracture and patient will be go in bedded, which will again develop further disorder, further diseases, compromisation of the pulmonary systems. Next comes the prevention. How will we prevent? We can do two things. Either we can prevent the disease, or the second is to prevent the complications which occurs due to osteoporosis. We'll see how to do. First is to stop the unhealthy habits like alcohol, tobacco, chewing or the smoking. This is in our hand. It's a lifestyle modification. We can prevent osteoporosis to some ratio in our life by stopping it. Second is the prevention of the falls. How will you prevent? First is avoid sedating medications. Some old age people are prescribed with diazepams or some sedation medication which leads to them early morning dizziness, which can be a cause of the fall of that patient. Second is remove household hazards to reduce the risk of fracture. If you see in some houses there will be some tables, some chairs, some small things, some decorative things, some carpets, which can lead to slippage of the patient. Patient can hit or polish with that, and patient will fall and suffer from fracture. So this household should be removed when there is a presence of the old age persons in our house. Second is make sure the vision is good. Patient must have good vision to see and to clear his pathway and to walk comfortably. Next comes walking with the walking aids. Yes, in old age we should give them with walking aid stick so that they can prevent some chances of fall and can take support of the walking aid and do comfortably. Next comes the hold the side bars in the bathroom or for climbing the stairs. If you see, then most of the patients in old age presents in our OPD with patient had a fall in bathroom in the midnight or in early morning, have gone for washroom. So we can use sidebars applied to the wall in the bathroom so that the patient can hold that sidebars and do that washroom activity comfortably. We can also ask that old age person to hold the railings of the stairs and to take support for climbing stairs. Next comes that use well-fitted shoes. You know, if you have tried, then in your childhood times, majority of us have walked with wearing our parents' shoe or chappals, right? So you must be knowing that how we feel while walking. We feel like about to fall, right? So the same thing happened with the old age people also. If they having a bigger size than they needed, it will one cause of the fall of the patient. So always should be used well-fitted shoes. Treatment part can be defined in the non-operative or the operative type. Non-operative type, that's the lifestyle modification and vitamin supplementation, which can be in form of the calcium and vitamin D supplementation. Second comes the pharmacological treatment, that's in postmenopausal women and men more than 15 years old with hip or vertebral fractures. With patients with a T-score between -1 to -2.5, that's osteopenia, which at the femoral neck or the spine level. In those patients, the 10-year risk of hip fracture is more than 3%, or in 10-year risk of major osteoporosis-related fracture is more than 20% by the FRAX calculation. If T-score is -2.5 or less at the femoral neck or spine. So these are some indication when to use non-operative treatment while using pharmacological treatment. And in operative part, there's nothing much but the complication which has occurred due to osteoporosis, that's a vertebral fracture, hip fracture or the wrist fracture. So this fracture must be treated by operative fixation, and the patient can be advised rehabilitation, and the patient can come back to the normal routine activity. So what are the pharmacological agents which should be used for the treatment of the osteoporosis? That's calcium and vitamin D, bisphosphonates, conjugated estrogen progesterone hormone replacement therapy, that's called HRT. Next is estrogen replacement therapy. Next comes the salmon calcitonin, then the raloxifene and the teriparatide. We won't go in detail in all these topics, all these drugs, but we will see few which we commonly use in our OPD based treatment. In operative treatment, as I said, that osteoporotic vertebral fracture, femoral neck fracture, and distal radius fracture, which should be fixed operatively. Okay, so first drug is the bisphosphonates. It's the first line of therapy in osteoporosis which shows a good result in patients. What are the indications? It's the hip or vertebral fracture, T-score less than 2.5 at the femoral neck or the spine, and the low bone mass, the T-score ranges between the -1 to -2.5. So if you see here T-score is less than 2.5 means osteoporosis, and -1 to -2.5 is osteopenia. So bisphosphonate can be prescribed in both osteopenia patient and the osteoporosis patient. We see mechanism how it acts, and it decreases osteoclastic bone resorption by increased osteoclast apoptosis. Do you understand? Osteoclast won't act on the bone marrow. There will be less destruction. Osteoclast will be died by himself. That's apoptosis, right? So decrease in osteoclastic bone resorption by increased osteoclast apoptosis, and there will be renal excretion without undergoing into metabolism. So bisphosphonate undergo renal excretion without going into metabolism. So less systemic side effects. Outcomes are, if you see outcomes, if alendronate reduces the rate of hip, spine and wrist fracture by the 50% of the rates, risedronate reduces vertebral and non-vertebral fractures by 40% each over 3 years of the time, and IV zoledronic acid, which is given once a year, it reduces the rate of spine fractures by 70% and hip fractures by the 40% over the 3 years period of time. And some side effects are the esophagitis, dysphagia, gastric ulcer, osteonecrosis of the jaw, and atypical subtrochanteric fractures. We routinely keep watch on the osteonecrosis of the jaw and atypical subtrochanteric fracture, as the rest of the side effects we see very less. Next comes the vitamin, calcium and vitamin D supplementation. Again, indications are the prophylactic in all patients, and it can be best prescribed in the type 2, that's a senile osteoporosis in more than 70 years of age group. Dosage and daily requirements are in vitamin D it requires 800 to 1000 international units, and calcium required according to age. Here we see if a patient is having more than 50 years of age, patient requires 1200 to 1500 milligram per day of the daily requirements of the calcium. We see the outcomes, the calcium reduces the fracture risk by 34%. After prescribing it, vitamin D supplementation reduces hip fracture risk by 10% and non-vertebral fracture risk by 7%. High dose vitamin D reduces hip fractures by 24% and non-vertebral fracture by 30%. So if we suspect osteoporosis or patient is having old age, there is nothing wrong in giving them calcium or vitamin D supplementation. Next comes the calcitonin. Its indication is for more than 5 years of postmenopause. It is given in women, in patient with more than 5 years of menopause is remained to decrease in pain in acute vertebral compression fractures, as acts as a neurotransmitter. The mechanism is so simple: it's bind with the membrane receptor on the osteoclast to inhibit its resorption. So administration could be by injection or the nasal spray, and the side effects are, if it is given by intranasal route, then there will be transient rhinitis. If given by injectable route, there will be a nausea, vomiting, flushing, and hypersensitivity reactions. Teriparatide is costliest part, and we prescribe it, and is having a very good result. Indication is a severe osteoporosis, and the patient is having a high fracture rate. Mechanism is to activate osteoblast and renal tubule cells and stimulates intestinal absorption of calcium phosphatase. Activates osteoblast and renal tubule cells. So there, bisphosphonate was acting by reducing activity of osteoclast, so less bone resorption. Here it activates osteoblast, so more bone formation. And renal tubule cells are activated and stimulate intestinal absorption of calcium and phosphatase. So administration is by daily subcutaneous injection. Side effects is hypercalcemia, dizziness, nausea and headache. This is a complication of the treatment. We have seen the complication of the disease itself, that's osteoporosis, that's a vertebral fracture, hip fracture, wrist fracture, means it's a brittle bone disease, and so it will lead to bone fracture. But here comes the complication of the treatment. The treatment part, whichever we have advised. So it's osteonecrosis of the jaw, that is seen in patients with highly bisphosphonate but not seen with the oral bisphosphonate. So treatment part is to stop the bisphosphonate. We should do regular checking of the X-ray or radiograph of the jawbone. Second comes atypical subtrochanteric stress fractures. It's seen in patients who have used long-term bisphosphonates. If you prescribe bisphosphonates more than 2, 3, 5 years, then there is some chances of appearance of the subtrochanteric stress fracture. And it could be treated by stopping of the bisphosphonate therapy, and we must operate and fix it with the intramedullary nail or the plate system to make patient comfortable and to get him out of the pain of and for treatment of fracture. Thank you so much.